Hi everybody, welcome back. So we're going to continue with Unit 4. This is dual agency, and this is again all over the U.S. unless I specifically say Maryland. We're going to continue with all these lessons right here, so if you need help with anything on dual agency, this would be the video for you. Okay, dual agency can be applied in different ways. A licensee is put into nearly impossible positions representing both parties equally, and it is impossible to offer undivided loyalty in this type of situation. You have to check with your specific state to see if they let you do dual agency. Most of the time they will, and the broker will act as the intermediary if there becomes an issue. It's very rare that I know of that an agency is going to turn down a broker and a seller in the same deal because they would lose money. So it would be highly unlikely. All right, let's look at it. But if anybody knows any different, please comment below. I'm all being, if you need to correct me and you're in a state that doesn't have it, you can comment below. YouTube loves it when people comment, and we interact with one another. I'm hoping to do these types of videos live someday when we get enough subscribers and enough interest. Okay, dual agency, and all the brokers and agents that work for that firm can act in a fiduciary capacity for the buyer and seller. Single license dual agency exists when a licensee represents both the buyer and the seller. In that case, the agent is the dual agent and the broker is the dual agent. Dual agents are required to provide all fiduciary duties to each party, except for undivided loyalty, because you can't give undivided loyalty to two people. It has to be one or the other. So dual license dual agency exists when the broker or the broker's designee assumes all the roles of the dual agency. If this is unclear, we'll go through some examples over here to help you figure that out. You represent the buyer in a transaction, and another licensee from your firm represents the seller in the same transaction. A licensee represents the buyer and seller in the same transaction. You represent the buyer, and a licensee from a different firm represent the seller. You represent the buyer in one transaction and the seller in a different transaction. I think that's dual. I'm not sure about that one. Let's see. See, it can be a little confusing. You represent the seller in a transaction, and another licensee from your firm brought the buyer or customer to the same transaction. So that's not dual agency because it's two different firms. Anytime you see two different firms, I'm pretty sure it's not dual agency. I could be wrong, but we'll check it out. You represent the sellers in the sale of their home, and then represent them as a buyer when purchasing a new home. All right, let's see how we did. Try again. Not too bad. We got one wrong. Okay, you represent the buyer in one transaction and the seller in a different transaction. Okay, I guess because they're two transactions, it's not dual agency. Okay. All right, I'm gonna let you do a screenshot if you need to, and we'll go through these a little slower again in case you need to check anything. All right, so let's go through these a little slower so you can look at it. All right, when you act as a dual agency role, confidential information about the price, the terms, the motivation, previous offers must remain confidential unless one party instructs you in writing that you can disclose this specific information. Disclosing to a buyer that the seller will accept another amount list price. Disclosing to a seller that the buyer can pay more. You're not allowed to do that unless you have it in writing. Okay, let's go back through here. Use caution if you decide to engage in a dual agency relationship, because you owe the same fiduciary duties to both the buyer and the seller, and you don't want to disclose confidential information, especially when it comes to a lot of money, because they're going to get pissed. All right, let's move on. All right, thinking about the fiduciary duties an agent owes a client, what duty becomes the most challenging when a licensee is part of a dual agency situation? Probably loyalty. Yeah, undivided loyalty is impossible for both sides. That would be like a lawyer and a divorce lawyer representing both when you think of it that way. You know, that lawyer cannot represent the husband and the wife both if they're filing for divorce. It would just be too difficult. He would have to take sides at some point. How does a dual agency situation impact the licensee's fiduciary duty of confidentiality? All right, so you don't want to share that, no, because they're going to be pissed if they lose 15 grand here. The seller wants to move because of an ongoing dispute with a neighbor. Oh, this cannot be shared. This cannot be shared. I don't know about this one here. Maybe this can be shared. Maybe, yeah. We'll put can be shared there and see what happens. The buyer is going to offer $245, but is willing to go as high as $250. You don't want to share anything like that. The buyer wants to buy the home so he can rent it to his sister. You can probably share that. The seller originally paid $235. That can be shared. That will be in the MLS information anyway, so that doesn't matter what they paid. That's public information. The seller recently replaced the roof due to hail damage. That can be shared. All right, let's see what we got wrong here. The seller wants to move because of an ongoing dispute. Okay, so apparently you're not supposed to share that. The buyer wants to rent the home, but you're not supposed to share that either. Okay, all right. I didn't know it was confidential. Learned something new. Okay, so you can't share if they're having a dispute with the neighbor. You can't share what they're going to do with the property. All right, let's try this again. All right, let's see what we got here. Dual agency infographics. All right, let's look at this because these are the little pictures. Usually they're not really detailed, but we'll look at it. Yeah, it's like nothing here. That's not going to really help anybody. Okay, so let's move on. All right, let's continue on to lesson 2, agency disclosure. I really wish they wouldn't put Maryland on here because it's all over the country, and I get tired of saying that. All right, you are required to inform everybody on the situation if you are helping both of them. So this is kind of what the screen looks like. I mean, the form looks like, and this is. It will pretty much kind of look the same in your zone. They're going to give this form, and then everybody's going to sign it, fill it out, put the address in there. So that's kind of what that looks like. I've seen these. I used to have my Maryland license. Right now I just have my Virginia. All right, so dual agency requires informed consent for both parties. So that form that I just saw, you should have something like that in your state that everybody has to sign and acknowledge that the buyer and seller are from the same agency. The dual agency in this type of scenario is the firm to maintain each client's confidentiality. The broker allows the ICAs to handle the transaction. In Maryland, consent for the dual agency form is used to provide information at the time of entering into a listing agreement with the seller. Keep in mind that if your buyer client does not consent to dual agency, then the client may not be shown any properties that are listed with your firm. So you can only show the buyer show that buyer the listed properties of those seller clients of your firm who have agreed to consent for dual agency. So if the consent for dual agency form is agreed upon and signed, then the client is comfortable with the possibility of a dual agency situation, which happens quite often when you've got like over 300 agents in one firm. Let's look at we're not going to read all that. Okay, we're trying to get through 5 or 6 lessons and the test all in one. So we don't want to sit and read all these little scenarios. But if you would like to have this emailed to you, you can contact me on my website page, and be sure to put this. You don't have to even put Maryland. You can just put this. And let me know what kind of resource you want, because there's over 300 here, so you need to be specific. You can contact me on my website under Contact Me and let me know what resource you would like. The consent for dual agency permission can be revoked by the client at any time. And the dual agency relation before a dual agency situation arises. Okay, so let's see. To legally represent a client in a dual agency situation as an intra-company agent, that's what ICA stands for, you need something called an informed consent. What exactly is an informed consent? All right. And all parties fully understand the ramifications and the purpose of the dual agency and give their informed consent by the intra-company agent. That's what they call it. When must the dual agency consent be given? They didn't really say, so we're just going to guess. First face-to-face, okay? All right, let's try that. There you go. As soon as you enter into the listing buyer agreement with the client. All right, when must the dual agency consent be reaffirmed? Let's see if it says here. Okay. When can it be reaffirmed? I don't remember reading anything about this. All right, let's guess. I don't see anything. Okay, let's guess this. Nope. Remember what has occurred that created the dual agency. Obtaining the affirmation prior consent for dual agency is not optional. Did I just do that one? I can't remember. All right, let's try it. Yes, that's correct. Okay. Prior to entering into the contract that involves both parties, the relationship must be reaffirmed when the contract comes in. So you might have to sign that form twice. The consent for dual agency form. If a customer wants to enter into an agency agreement with you, they must sign the consent for dual agency. If they refuse, you cannot represent them. No, I don't think that's true. I think you can represent them. I just don't think they can look at any more houses that's listed by your firm. Now, I could be wrong, but I remember reading that in here. Okay, let's see. If a buyer and seller want to be represented by a broker who is acting as their dual agent, then both parties must sign the consent for dual agency form. Dual representation does not limit the broker's ability to represent each party fully and exclusively. Now, I don't know about that one, because how can they be exclusive if you're representing both of them? But we'll put true there and see what happens. Because ICAs work for the same firm, they cannot provide the same level of service to their clients as an exclusive seller or buyer. I mean, I would say yes on that. In a dual agency, ICAs are allowed to share confidential. No, they cannot share confidential. The broker has the right to fire a client who initially consented to a dual agency but is refusing to confirm their consent as the parties are acting into a contract phase. Okay. So that is true. The broker can fire the client. Dual representation does not limit the broker's ability to represent each fully and exclusively. False. They can represent them fully and exclusively. Because ICAs work for the same firm, they cannot provide the same level of service, which is also false. They can provide the same services, such as price and negotiation strategies. Okay, this one's true, and that's false. All right, let's see how we do this time. Let's go back through this a little bit slower so you can take a picture if you want. Taking the pictures on your phone will help you, like if you're sitting in traffic, standing in line at the grocery store, whatever. You're just sitting around. This is a good way to study. Instead of scrolling through Facebook, learn, study, take pictures here so you can study. Don't waste your time. I do several videos on wasting time. Do not waste your time. I mean, you're standing in line, sitting in traffic. I usually work on my Spanish lessons when I'm sitting in traffic, or I'm Ubering and waiting for somebody to come outside. I just try not to waste any of my time in life. It's too valuable. I should put a link to that video. I do have a couple of them on my channel. Alright, undisclosed dual agency is legal. Let me see, undisclosed dual agency? I'm gonna say false. That's right. You always have to disclose dual agency. At least in Maryland. I'm sure in all states you probably have to do that. Alright, is that a violation? Your firm represents the landlord and tenant in the same lease transaction, but because the clients are not sellers and buyers, neither ICA bothered to obtain consent from either party. I believe that's a violation. It's still dual agency. You're scheduling showers for a buyer client and arrange for him to see the property listed by one of the other agents at your firm. The seller has stated they do not agree to dual agency. So if they don't agree to it, then no, you don't show them nothing. You're showing a buyer client who has consented to dual agency a nice property and that just hit the market, your parents' house. They also agreed to dual agency, but you decide not to tell the buyer that the sellers are parents and clients of the real estate agent where you work. You work for a small firm in which a dual agency situation has presented itself. Your broker assigned you as the ICA for the broker and herself as the ICA for the seller. Okay, I don't think that's a violation. Your brokers recently signed a listing agreement with new sellers and asked them to consent to dual agency because the broker has a buyer client in mind that already provided consent. Your brokers recently signed a listing agreement with the new sellers and asked them to consent to dual agency. Hold on a second here. I gotta think about this. Your brokers recently signed a listing agreement with new sellers and asked them to consent to dual agency because the broker has a buyer client already in mind. I don't think that's a violation. Okay, this one is a violation. Oh, maybe it's a violation because they didn't sign anything. That's because it doesn't say they signed a contract. So I think everything but the last one is a violation. So this is a violation, I do believe, because they didn't really sign a contract. So you really have to read these things, because they will try and trick you sometimes on these tests. Like this was kind of tricky because they didn't put in there that you just assume they signed something, but try not to assume, because you know what assume means, right? Makes an ass out of you and me. So, and you don't want to get a question wrong that could have easily been right. All right, not disclosing that you are an ICA is a violation of your fiduciary duties. All right, let's go to compensation and agency. And we're still on dual agency. Just as undisclosed dual agency is a big no-no, so is receiving undisclosed compensation. You have to disclose all your compensation to your broker. And that means everyone has to know who's paying salespeople and why. So if they're giving you a tip of $500, yes, it has to go through your broker. Salespeople may not receive any compensation directly from the seller, the buyer, the agents, the brokers, or your Aunt B without it going through the broker. And that includes Aunt B. Aunt B may not pay for real estate services directly. It has to be funneled through the broker. Salespeople may not receive referral fees from brokers, title reps, any of that kind of stuff. And if you do receive any money from them, again, it has to go through your broker. And if you're unsure, if you're not sure, just do it anyway, right? Always do it just to be safe. You don't want to lose your license over something that's stupid. Okay, compensation can come through your broker, other agents, directly from a client, a customer. I think that's false because it can only come through the broker. You receive a referral fee from an agent in a neighboring county. Is it okay? This is okay because you disclosed it to your firm? Now, when they say firm here, I don't know if they're talking about the brokerage or not. So this is another one where they try and trick you with some of their words, because this could be interpreted as brokerage to me. Okay, is it okay that you disclose it to your firm? I'm going to say yes, because that's kind of unclear. A mortgage broker offers you a kickback for any buyers you refer him. As long as you disclose this to your firm, you can accept this money. So again, here we go with the firm. Is the firm the brokerage? I don't know. All right, let's find out. See, again, I guess firm. Okay, so firm and brokerage in this case are two different things. See, that's what I was wondering. That's a kind of tricky question, the way they're wording it. So in this case, the firm is different from the brokerage. So I guess if you see that on a test and it doesn't say, if it says firm instead of brokerage, then put no. They're not the same thing. All right, so let's test you on what you remember. Can you accept it? A commission check from your firm. Here we go with the firm again. I don't really like the firm word, but disclosed bonus check directly from your seller. A disclosed bonus check from a seller routed through your firm. I'm going to put no here because, again, they're saying firm instead of brokerage. Commission check from your buyer, no. Gift card, no. Disclosed referral fee from a local title company, no. All right. So we got a lot of these wrong. So the firm here must be the brokerage, right? So they need to stop doing that because this is super confusing. Gift card from your co-workers, you can take that. Okay, you can take this. No. So in this case, they're using firm as the brokerage. Oh my goodness. Commission check from your buyer. No. You can take a gift card from your co-workers. You cannot take anything from a title company without going through your brokerage. All right. Lesson 4. We got to cut this short off here soon because we're going to run out of time. All right. Let's see. What has an impact on the teams? The broker may designate 2 team members as ICAs for the buyer and seller in the same transaction. And the broker or office manager acts as the dual agent. The broker may not serve as an ICA. The broker and seller must consent to the team ICA before the contract is written. Again, you need to get that in writing on that dual agency form. Whatever you use in your office for that dual agency form, that needs to be signed. All right, 3 statements that accurately reflect the impact of teams. All right, let's see. 3 statements. The broker must designate 2 team members. Broker, no, that's not true. The dual agent may be part of the same team. The team leader may designate the broker serves as a dual. Dual agency isn't allowed within real estate teams. The team leader may not make this designation. And the broker may not serve as the ICA. Dual agency isn't allowed within teams. The dual agent may be a part of the same team as the ICA. Okay, so that's correct. All of these are correct. If you want to do a screenshot on either one of these, you got a few seconds. I think I'm going to have to shut this one down because it's getting kind of long. Let me see how much more we got to go. Okay, so it's still going on. All right, I'm going to go back. And I'm going to go back again. And this is where we're going to pick up on the next lesson because this video is getting kind of long. All right, I'll see you on the next one.